Man, yeah, just wear the beanie. That's it.
That's pretty solid. I feel good about that. That's a good way to start this. Get the attitude up high, you know.
Good trade 2 J's if you could become Wolverine.
Where are you getting all this information?
I definitely heard some rumors about it. Are you still going? I get goosebumps thinking about it because it's like you can hear them get.
The car, I was going to qualify and I was going to drive it out the racetrack.
Just threw the hood over the ditch and
longest employee of knots.
You did some digging there, huh?
Look, I'm planning on attending every FD event this year. And if you're planning on attending any of them, I've got a little secret for you. Save some money. Use FD Podcast at checkout. Save a couple bucks. Times are hard. Might as well save a couple of dollars. I don't know what you're going to do with it. Go to the dollar store, get yourself something. You used to be able to get 3 things, but no. Now it's just 1 thing, maybe. But either way, that's like a free thing. So FD Podcast at checkout. Save some money. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Outerzone, the official podcast of Formula Drift. My name is Jacob Gettins, and we have Mr. Conor Shanahan. How's it going?
What's up? All good. Thank you for having me, man. I'm excited.
Yeah. I'm glad we got to do this. I've been for some reason recently in all the podcasts, I've been kicking everybody off with deep nicknames that I found. I found 2 of them for you. One of them I don't even know if I should say, but the Basher. That's an interesting one.
The Basher.
I don't mind that.
Where did you find that?
And then Connie One Ball. I like that one better though.
Connie One Ball? Yeah. Where did you find a Basher?
I can't reveal my secrets, man.
That's super interesting because the Basher actually was my nickname when I was a kid.
Yeah. I mean, it's, was that from soccer or was that from drifting?
Basher was just when I was a reckless kid driving quads and crashing everything. That's how I got that nickname. But yeah.
Nothing's changed then.
No, everything is still quite similar. I grew up trashing everything and nothing has changed that way.
No, you just now get a career out of it, right? Like,
yeah,
that's
exactly.
The difference.
That's what makes it. I'll happily get called a Basher for as long as I get to do
it. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, how much of a Basher you are now with a completely different kind of layout in the program. I know. There's certain things we can talk about, certain things that we can't. But have you driven in a kind of like a separate vehicle before, like one that you didn't build yourself?
No, this is probably the biggest change, to be honest. And I'm like going into a lot of like unknown. Being straight honest, I wasn't really planning on doing a 2024 Formula Drift season. Some things moved around and luckily I get to work with some great partners and we came on board kind of last minute and said, okay, we can maybe do this. So yeah, this is probably the biggest thing. I'm going driving left-hand drive, which I've never drove at a high level of competition. A chassis, what I've never drove at a high level of competition. But I think that's what kind of makes it exciting for me as a driver is that, one, it's a step to come here and figure everything out as fast as possible. But, all that added in makes it a little bit more nerve-wracking for me. But, I'm just looking forward to enjoying the nerves, enjoying the excitement. And I'm just honestly proud to be here, like more than anything right now. No matter what the situation is, this has always been a dream. And no matter what's put in front of me, I'm ready to try, take it by the horns and take it on.
What's the, I guess, like, being somebody who's like always been around FD, like it's held a lot of prestige, obviously just being a fan of it, but being from overseas and then competing in Drift Masters and, IDC, BDC, you've been in several different series. Is like the European or the United States Championship like different? Does it sit differently in everybody's heads? Is it because like in the US everyone's like, oh, Drift Masters. Like I think it's just whatever you can't get to is what you want.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's kind of more going back to when I was a kid, like watching Formula Drift. Ireland was always like the American dream. No matter what sport you did, if you were going to America to play ball or you were going to America to play basketball or you're going to drive a drift car, you're doing something right. So I think that's kind of why the attitude of Formula Drift is the place to where you need to be is kind of why, everybody kind of falls for that. And it's like, okay, we need to go to America. We need to drive in America. For me, it's a little bit different because I just respect drifting. And no matter where it is in the world. And, I know the level of Formula Drift and I know the work what Formula Drift put in to build, this program to what it is right now. And it's, one of the best championships in the world for sure. And, for me to come and drive the streets of Long Beach next week is kind of like something like, wow, that's pretty crazy. I'm a fan of racing cars also. And I've, remember watching Long Beach, Grand Prix, everything like that. So to come and drive some like iconic location like that is quite cool. So I think, for me to answer the question is like, absolutely. It was always a dream to come here. And then managing to win a Drift Masters Championship last year and get to the top of the game there has been a lot of work, and has been like, lots of sacrifices and so, to reach that success. So I thought, why not try come over and give it a shot to have some success in America also.
Yeah. It's a huge step. Like, I mean, just the logistics of moving yourself around, like booking flights and understanding where you need to be and when, I'm sure is just enough of an undertaking to be like, oh, like this is a ton of work.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's probably the biggest thing for me is that, the time zone is so different, and I'm also trying to run a big a business at home as well. The race team at home is mine. And it runs as a company, and it's lots of work to make that happen, to make sure that we're ready to go for Drift Masters as well. So taking this on, to be honest, is quite crazy. But I'm looking forward to enjoying it, and I think now the fact that I'm here, I'm currently actually in America right now, and it's quite close. So I'm already enjoying every experience of being here and looking forward to, taking it on and just learning loads, learning from other drivers, learning from the championship, and just try to be the best person I can be, basically.
What's the fast food go-to right now? Like, what's the first thing you dive into?
Chick-fil-A, probably.
Yeah.
It's quite funny, actually. The guys are slagging me because I'm calling it like chicken fillet, like proper Irish.
Yeah. You got to cut off. You got to cut off. You got to cut off the end of the chicken part.
Yeah. No, I'm calling it chicken fillet. It's quite good.
What's your order? Like, do you go spicy deluxe or you just original?
Spicy deluxe and some nuggets also is proper good.
Oh, nice. Okay, all right. And then Chick-fil-A sauce, I assume.
Oh, the best. That's why I like it. Because the sauce is so good.
You can just get a bottle of it and take it home if you want.
Oh, don't be telling me that, man. I'll be going to the store straight after the podcast.
Dude, it's a problem. It's definitely a problem. We had a bottle of Chick-fil-A sauce in our fridge forever, and I'm like, you have to get this out of the house.
Yeah, no, it's proper good. Yeah, that's a good thing about America. The food is so good. It's amazing.
It's good and bad all at the same time, right?
I agree. I've got to come here 7 times this year, and I'm like, I need to take it easy. Yeah,
you're gonna have to chill on that. You're not gonna fit in the race suit by the time the season's over.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, even just getting to visit. I mean, you and I hung out a little bit in Irwindale. We chatted a little bit, just kind of like how different it is and how kind of exciting the US is. So I'm hoping it doesn't wear off. Like, 7 rounds is a bit, but I'm hoping
no, for sure. And I think also that's probably why I'm going to enjoy the experience a lot more, is because I've been driving in Drift Masters for 5 years now, and Drift Masters for me is, probably not in a bad way, but it's kind of like almost work. I go there to win, and I go there to try win championships, and which is great. And I'm so, grateful that I'm in that position with a good team. And but for me, it kind of sometimes gets, a little bit like the competitive side is quite scary sometimes, and you're expected no matter what time or no matter where I am, everybody's already talking online, oh, Conor's going to win FD, whatever. But, that kind of stuff for me is like, yeah, for sure. It's like, okay, cool. I'm glad that you think that. Thank you so much. But at the same time, for me, it's, every time I drive the car, that's what I'm expected to do. So I think that the change to come to America and, and do it alongside Drift Masters as well, and do a full Drift Masters Championship, I think it makes it quite exciting for me as a driver because, personally, I'm not coming here to go out and, kill everybody in the streets of Long Beach. I'm just going to be pretty chill and try learn as much as I can from it. If something good comes from it, well, then it's a bonus. But when I go to the first round of the Drift Masters, I'm defending champion. I got to win, and I got to say that I got to win. So I think that's what makes it a little bit more exciting for me, is that I got both of them to bounce off each other, and I get to live the American lifestyle for, a couple of times in the year and enjoy that also. Yeah,
there's got to be a lot of pressure being a defending champion now, especially at that. Like, I can't imagine like trying to juggle that and just be like, try to be humble, try to be relaxed, try to focus on the race, but also understand that like you have a title to defend.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's always something, and there's no point lying. I love winning. I love winning more than anything. I'm the most competitive guy ever. And winning has been a part of my, childhood. It's been a part of when I've been growing up with my dad roaring in my ear, being like, second is not good enough. And that's the fact, So I think, I put a lot of pressure already on myself. I don't need added pressure from anybody. I know that I want to win, and I know that I want to be the best, driver in the world of drifting, and the most dominant driver in the world of drifting is what the end goal for me is. And I don't want to stop until that's, made possible. So I think also as well, you have that side when the helmet goes on that you want to win and you want to beat everybody. But for me, I'm in a position where I love drifting more than anything. And I enjoy seeing the generations now of younger, even guys than me coming up in Irish level and stuff. So I think something what I always say is like, yeah, you can have bad days and you can have days where you're like, oh, I should have won or I should have not got knocked out there. But at the same time, there's guys sitting at home who would give their left arm to be in the position you are. So you got to be grateful and got to enjoy the experience and be proud of the companies, what you're working with to make all this happen, because it's not a cheap sport. And to do this as my job, that's an achievement alone. Even to line up on the street of Long Beach is going to be a win for me. Everything what comes after that is going to be a bonus. But yeah, I at the same time, I can talk all the nice talk, but yeah, for sure, I'm not there to play around. I want to get a good result under the belt, and I'm going to come out and try deliver as best I can in the car what I'm in.
Yeah, I've seen enough of your driving over the years to like know, and now getting to know you a little bit personally, like the juxtaposition of the kind of fun, excited, but also relaxed person inside of the car, and then the like crazy, hyper-focused, precision driver that comes as soon as the visor drops. So, which we see a lot of, right? Like, I mean, Odie Bakshi is a great example of that.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Super quiet, but then the visor goes down and you're like, oh, this guy is just here to decimate everyone.
Yeah. I think that's what's cool about the sport. What we do is that you have so many different characters. We're all characters who use, we deal with things very different, and that's what's exciting. That's what's exciting for the fans, that they get to see a different person outside of the car, and everybody's on it inside the car. And I think that's probably the goal for me, is just trying to make a name for myself here and be respectful to everybody. And if I can try, land some good results, well, then that's the plan.
I would say there's a name. Like, the name's already there. I think.
Yeah, the hype is good for sure. I'm enjoying watching everybody talking about everything. It's cool.
Yeah, that's got to be kind of fun too. Like, knowing, obviously, well, hopefully, exactly what's going on, and then seeing all the speculation come out.
Well, actually, what's quite crazy is that when it comes out what I'm doing, everybody's going to be like, "Wow, I didn't really expect that." I think it's a little bit kind of what people aren't expecting. Which is a little bit more exciting for me. Well, people have probably expected it, but not as much as they've been expecting other things. So I think that's what makes it exciting for me. And also what's really cool about this is that, I'm coming to Formula Drift, and I will be driving a Red Bull branded car for me, which is like huge.
That's crazy.
That's been a part of my career now for 5 years, and they've made me successful and made me, good enough as a person to be able to win a championship in Europe. And I'm quite proud that I get to represent them here and try to be successful for them here as well. And of course, all the other incredible partners what I work with. But what's cool about what I'm doing is that the program here is with somebody that I'm so glad that I'm with, because he understands drifting better than anybody when it comes to our personality. Like, if somebody asked me a question, oh, what's drifting? I was just like, oh, it's that guy. And I'm not going to say a whole pile more, but that's what's kind of exciting for me, is that, like, I kind of, what's crazy is when everything is kind of happening, I'm like, I feel like it's kind of like me and my brother in Europe, but obviously my brother is not here, which is a little bit annoying, but I'm sure that will happen in the future. But we have to kind of work hard to make it happen, which I think makes the win want to come more, that I'm not just jumping into the ideal scenario. So I think that's what's is quite cool, and I'm looking forward to sharing many memories with this guy and a lot of success also.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit difficult, or at least different now, not driving in the same series as your brother does. Because, like, I mean, that obviously that goes back as long as you've been alive, but like, I don't think people realize how close you guys are. I mean, he essentially was the one that taught you how to drift. I mean, obviously your dad's a huge influence, but like Jack's going to be the guy who's in the car next to you.
Yeah, for sure. I think also as well, what's quite crazy is this is the first time I will ever drive away from my family team ever. From back racing karts to racing, cars to drifting. My family have always been the team what has been around me, even though now it's a professional team in Europe. It's still the same. It's still my brother building all the cars. And I think probably that is the biggest thing, is that, my brother gives me a car what I know is good enough to win a championship, and he makes everything happen, and to have that feeling kind of gone a little bit is for sure a little bit scary. That I don't know if I'm like taking a huge risk or what the situation is. The good thing is he'll be there in Long Beach in my ear telling me how to beat all these guys. So I'm quite excited to see him from that side, as I haven't had him for a spotter in a long time. So to have him, there, and when I think I'm competitive, my brother's a whole other level. He would go over the roof of somebody to beat them, so he's going to be giving me some stick for sure. And I've already been talking to him, being like, I don't really know what to expect. And he's like, you're going here to win and that's it. And I'm like, okay, okay. But that's what's cool, is that we've, done everything as a family. And even though we're coming here at separate times, and for sure, Jack will be here in the future and we will be here together at some stage. But to have him here in my year, and my family will be cheering on from home and stuff. And I think that's what's quite cool about our journey, what we've had, and to see that it's now I'm here driving an FD and stuff is quite crazy, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. I found an article from 10 years ago from Irish Drift Championship round 4. And the article stated 13-year-old drifter Jack Shanahan had to borrow his 9-year-old brother's drift car to finish the event. And like that to me was like the pinnacle, maybe not pinnacle, but like it really shows what your family is about. The fact that like a 13-year-old had to, borrow their 9-year-old brother's car to compete at Ireland's highest level of drifting.
It's for
crazy.
Sure. It's the story of my family is honestly like pretty crazy, to be honest. My mom and dad have sacrificed everything to get us in a position to work with all these partners, and they're the real heroes behind all of our stories. But yeah, it's been cool. Me and Jack made the jump to the Drift Masters in 2018, and we drove a truck around Europe with probably no license, no nothing, trying to win events to get prize money to put diesel in the truck to get to the next race. But they're the days I think everybody's like, oh, what's the most rewarding thing of drifting? And I'm like, yeah, okay, you can say winning events or everything what comes with all of that. But, for me, it's kind of me and Jack just being in a steady place and, wanting it more than anybody. And something what I always say to people is that want is more than anything. If you want something, you'll figure out a solution to get it. And I think when you look at like me winning a Drift Masters Championship last year, yeah, okay, obviously the driving was pretty good, but in theory, I might not have been the best driver there. It just, I always dug deep and always found a solution no matter what was going wrong. And that's pure because we've always wanted to be in this situation and we know how good it will feel if we can achieve it. So I think that's what's probably quite cool about coming here as well, is that missing one round, I will miss Road Atlanta, which kind of sucks if I am in a good position at the end of the year. But at the same time, I'll take every round as it comes and, just give it my best that I can offer. And that's what I always say, is that if the best I can offer is good enough to win, a round of Formula Drift, well, then I'll be happy. If not, once I know that I gave it my all, I'll be happy to go back to the drawing board and learn some more.
I like the want part of that a lot, because people ask like, oh, how does so-and-so get to that part? And it's like, well, they didn't give up. Like,
no, for sure.
Everybody else gave up at some point, and that's why this person is where they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the not giving up is not just you as a driver. You have to have the right people around you. And to be honest, that's why I'm here. That's why it works right now, is that when everything comes out, it will all make sense. But, it just kind of came up and we were like, clicked together, and I was like, yeah, we could probably make something work for sure. So it's going to be quite cool. I'm excited to learning. I have so much to learn with drivers. I've been watching the last year's live stream about 10 times on the plane, and trying to write notes about every driver because I don't have much time to figure them out. But I think that's as I said, the unknown is exciting. I go back to Drift Masters. It's also exciting because I really want to win the championship there again. But I know every one of them drivers inside out. Where I come here, I'm driving a left-hand drive car, an engine setup I've never drove, a chassis I've never drove. It's like, are you crazy? But I'm like, yeah, we'll make it work some way. So that's what's kind of exciting for me right now, is putting in the work to make sure that it's possible, laps on the sim, and trying to find as much information as I can about these guys to make sure that I'm in a good enough position to try beat them.
Yeah, I think with the new non-qualifying layout that we've got now, at least, you're able to kind of look and be like, okay, you've got Dimitri Brutsky, that's going to be first. So like, you can start going back and checking notes there, but there's only so many notes because like he hasn't been in pro either. Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, for me, it's kind of like, oh, why couldn't you have done that after round one? Because I'm kind of like, 2 qualifying runs would have been quite nice to put like make a bit of an impact. And you have 2 chances to get inside the show. Whereas now it's like everything has to be perfect, and which is cool. It's quite exciting for sure. And I think it's a good step in the right direction for the fans of drifting. But yeah, for me, it's kind of like, yeah, okay, it's game on. I gotta be ready to, battle all these guys from the get-go. And, you look at like Dimitri for an example is that, okay, yeah, he's never drove Long Beach, he's never been a pro, but he's also a good driver. I've seen this guy drive in Pro Spec, and I've seen him drive in some other events. So, the work will be in front of me from the get-go. But, for me driving a car, I just look at everything as trying to find a solution, and every driver is trying to be the solution, and every track is trying to be the solution, and you just got to try work everything out to find the end goal and beat all the solutions.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it. I would assume Long Beach, like the closest version you would have would be Ferropolis. Like that would be the closest to kind of being in that pinball machine.
Yeah, for sure. It's still very different. I actually stayed in Long Beach before I flew home the last time and walked the track.
Through the parking lot.
Through the parking lot. It's quite cool. I didn't think it was quite. I didn't think it was like that in real life, so it was quite cool to see it. But for sure, it's probably like the track on the Clinner, what's kind of like European style. I think for sure. With like lots of technical driving, it makes proximity chasing very close. Which is what I'm a huge fan of. I love proper aggressive chasing, and getting right up onto the door is what the buzz in a drift car for me is trying to be the best chase driver in the game. And I think that Long Beach probably has aspects of similar tracks what I've driven in Europe, but that's in a GT86, but I could drive with probably my hands at my lap at this stage because I've done so many laps in them. It's like, they're, in my opinion, such a good chassis, and I'm so comfortable in it. And I wish, to be honest, that I was rolling out in the GT86 in Long Beach. And a lot of people have guessed it, but no, it's not true. I wish it was. Then for sure I would be, talking a little bit differently, like, I want to win. But no, I think the fact that it's so much unknown in a car, what I'm not used to and stuff, it's going to be a big challenge. And, there's no point not being realistic about that. You just got to face it and try to deal with the track as best we can.
Yeah, but I mean, you've traditionally been somebody who's done well in those types of situations. I think it was Poland. You literally, your first lap on track, you qualified first. Like that was your only qualifying run.
Yeah, I really like, I just like, I honestly like pressure.
Yeah.
As a driver, I've always kind of been like that. The bigger the scenario, the bigger the occasion is like, okay, we got to try make this happen, and I think it kind of gets me more like, I don't know what it is. I don't know. Does it just get me more focused? Does it get me more like in the zone or trying to figure everything out? And I think also as well, a big thing about that is that you can do 10 practice laps and they can be sick and you can be on rails. And the problem is with driving a drift car, especially on a track like that, is that you can go over 100%, and the minute you go to 101%, you're in the wall or you're in the car or you make a silly mistake, you crash into somebody on the transition and you're regretting it for the next 2 weeks, being like, why did I do that? Whereas when you come into a situation where you have to be safe, that's probably the biggest goal for me, is driving a little bit safer than I normally would, is just, figuring everything out. But the safe can also be good enough, and also can be better sometimes in the wild because you're in a good position. You're a little bit more in control and you're analyzing everything a little bit more. Whereas when you're in that state where you're on rails, for sure it can work out in your favor, but a lot of the time, sometimes you can get too comfortable and you can take too much than you should have. And I think the safer option sometimes with situations like that, when you don't have a lot of laps and you're in a little bit of an unknown environment, that can be quite a nice feeling too, because, you realize that your safer option of driving sometimes can be better than the wild side of driving.
But I think you're also just driving on instinct, and realistically, that's when all of you perform the best, is when it's just pure instinct. That's all you have.
Yeah, absolutely. No, for sure. And it's, when I was driving here a couple of weeks ago, I got the chance to drive at Odie and stuff. And, I know all these guys are as good as they look online, and that's for sure. So you got to respect that, and you got to be willing to put in the work to make sure that you're good enough to try, match them.
Have you driven your new car in full like FD spec yet? Or have you, I mean, I don't want to give away too much. I'm trying to ride that line of what we can talk about.
Quite similar probably to what it will be, but not exactly. Okay. We'll test possibly tomorrow, I think.
Okay.
We'll get some laps in and hopefully figure it out.
I'm really curious, because the best way I've had this explained to me, and the more I've delved into both, European and US drifting, European cars rely, and please correct me if I'm incorrect on this one, rely a lot on the mechanical grip from the tire, whereas the US cars require more grip mechanically from the suspension and alignment. So,
Yeah.
and that's the difference of the two.
Yeah, for sure. And it's also, for me, a very different driving style when it comes to grip. Because one, the engine setup is so different to what I'm used to. But two, also, yeah, the cars are quite set up differently here. Even when I was first driving that car, I had to change some things that kind of suited my driving style a little bit more. But yeah, for sure, you're right. The tire game has took over Europe. It's bananas how good the tire is.
Volinos and Extremes are just, dude, it's crazy.
It's crazy how fast they are, and it almost makes the car impossible to drive, to be honest. It's like you're on the limit of kind of crashing or getting understeer. I think for me, probably the biggest thing what I noticed, and it's like something small, but it's probably the biggest thing what I found like affected me, was the lack of the front tire. And in Europe, we have such a good front tire that you can almost left foot brake no matter what angle you're on, no matter, you know, what part of the track you're on. You can almost use left foot braking as a tool on transitions. When I drove with the Formula Drift kind of setup, the front tire doesn't have the same grip. And for me, I rely a lot on left foot braking while chasing. Pretty much everything is done by left foot braking when chasing. And I had to change my style a lot, that I had to kind of rely on the handbrake a little bit more, which I personally am not a fan of. I feel like it's not the best way to keep, you know, steady proximity. So I think that was probably the biggest difference of like, you can't lean on the front tire as much as you would in Europe. So I think that was probably the only thing what was like a huge effect that I had to change a little bit to adapt to it. Whereas to be honest, other than that, the cars are, the grip levels are quite different, but the overall feeling of a car and stuff here it's not like it's drastically different. It's quite similar to what we have also.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, we're talking about the same parts. I mean, you can get everything in either parts of the world. Track wise, I mean, Drift Masters is getting faster and faster every year. The tracks are getting crazier. And realistically, looking at all the events, the only big difference is going to be the ovals. And I think similar to like, you know, when James came over, that was the big talk of like, well, let's see what you can do on an oval.
Yeah, I'm super excited to drive an oval. Like that's probably actually one of the most exciting things about coming to Formula Drift for me, because I used to race oval racing, short oval. Yeah. Like in like stock cars in Ireland and England and stuff. And I've always been like, oh, I'd love to drift like a proper oval, like NASCAR style. And I came out to watch Arendelle last year and seeing what went on down there, and I was like, yeah, it's super cool, you know. And I know for sure it's a challenge. From my outside looking in, my opinion is probably not challenged to drive it, I would think, but the knowledge what the other drivers have is such a beneficial, because I feel like everything happens a little bit different. You know, the car feels a lot different. You know, and in a situation where they have to adapt really quickly, you know, somebody who's done it for 5-6 years has a big advantage there. And I think I've been lucky enough to have James as my best friend for pretty much my whole life. He's been a mentor of me. He's been in a car with me when I was 9 years of age drifting. Was a huge fan and supporter of him when he came in 17, 18, 19, and obviously, technically, to be honest, dominated the 3 championships for coming in and winning everything.
Dude, decimated everybody.
I'm not afraid
it wasn't even in the US. It was literally everywhere for 3 years. It was crazy.
It was crazy. And you know, I know the work he put in to do that, you know, and I think that's probably what a lot of people don't look at, is like, oh, he's the machine, he's this. Well, yeah, for sure, he's incredible. And I've drove with him at the top of the game for quite some years, and I know how good the guy is, but I also know how much work he puts in. And in those times, you know, he was putting in more work than anybody in the game, and that's why he was getting the results what he is. You know, you don't achieve that stuff by just clicking your fingers. Yeah, for sure, he's probably one of the most naturally talented guys I've ever seen to drive a drift car. But you know, he's so good at looking at situations and just analyzing them from the outside and being able to translate it into the car. And you know, I've spoke to him a lot about the bank tracks, and we've had different conversations over some years, and I think, you know, his understanding was quite the same, is that like the bank track for him, he could adapt to it quite quick, but it took some time to figure out like every end of it, you know, that like if something happens that you got to adapt a little bit different than you would if it was a normal track with locking the front wheels and all that kind of stuff. So I'm excited to venture and drive those tracks and see what they're like. We have nothing like that in Europe, so that's probably like the most exciting thing as a driver to come over and yeah, 4 gear flat out in a bank door and door sounds pretty mad, to be honest.
Yeah, it's It's funny how a lot of the US drivers are kind of like over the banks and like, I don't want to do this track anymore. Whereas, you know, people who don't do it, they come out like,
No,
this
I'm
is,
like,
I can't wait.
Let's run 7 rounds of Arundel.
I mean, there's enough
Or 8
layouts
rounds,
there, man.
8 rounds, yeah.
There's enough layout variations there. You easily could do it and not have the same event twice.
Yeah, for sure.
On the note of James, like how obviously, like, you know, same town. One, I'm still trying to figure out the hell they put in the water there, because it doesn't make sense to have 3 of, you know, the greatest drifters of all time all coming from the same
mad.
town of nobody.
My town loves it. They're like on cloud 9 24/7.
That's so. I mean, that's got to be cool for such a small village. Like,
it's amazing
to have that happen. It's almost unheard of.
Yeah, it's quite cool that, you know, like we knew James probably pretty much all my life. I knew who James Dean was, but my dad was completely against drifting, like completely against drifting. And Mike, James's brother, would have probably done some work for my dad over the years. And every time James's brother Mike didn't have a tire machine at their shop, and they used to use the tire machine at my dad's workshop, which was like 2 minutes over the road. And every time like you hear this cool car coming, it was like James's brother driving like a Silvia, or it was like a Skyline, and used to be outside being like, rev it, I want to hear it, or take me for a spin. And so me and Jack always kind of liked the idea of drifting, and that was kind of when I was younger. And then, to be honest, I actually went completely away from, not motorsport, probably drifting. It never really, even when Jack started at the very start, it never dawned on me that like this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, until I was a little bit kind of small bit older. I was playing soccer and played football, and I also used to be like a huge fan of the career path of karting and high level circuit racing, and just a little bit confused, to be honest. And then I remember I went to a Drift All Stars event. I think it was like 2013 or 2014. James was actually Jack's spotter there, and I basically sat in the grandstand from the start of the top 32 until the end. And I remember walking out of there being like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And that's where it kind of clicked that like, okay, Dad, build me a drift car, you know. And then kind of after that, it was, being a fan of James and watching James, you know. And I think also as well, we had a homecoming when I won the championship this year, and everybody's asking questions, you know, being like, what's like the biggest inspiration? And I'm like, well, I've got one of the most successful drivers in the world in drifting, literally one of my best friends and also my neighbor. So why did I think that I couldn't do it, or why did Jack not think he could do it? And I think that was like probably the coolest part, is that, you know, even in that homecoming, it was like, you know, we had a big tall guy to look up to know that it was possible to be successful on this career path, and he supported us every step of the way. And there was times where Jack beat him. There was times where, you know, I beat him in 2018 when I was like 15, when he won already after winning a Formula Drift Championship, my first ever European event. And, you know, that night, you know, to anybody else is probably like, oh, you know, 15-year-old kid beating me, what is going on, or whatever, you know. But James supported me, cherished every moment with me, and knew that like this is okay, the start of your pro level career. And I think, you know, a couple of weeks later I got signed by Red Bull, and he was talking to me every day being like, you know, how are things, you know, has it made a difference? Or, you know, if that was any other driver, they probably would have been like, I don't want this kid beating me, you know. And I think that's what's been quite cool about James, is that any question I've had, even right now, up until like knowing that we possibly could battle in Long Beach, he's still like on the phone to me, like talking to me every day, being like, hey, do you need anything, or is everything okay? Or, you know. And I think that's what's pretty crazy about James Dean, is that he's probably, in my opinion, probably one of the nicest guys you will ever meet outside of motorsport. He's like, I honestly say to him sometimes, I'm being like, you know what, just be an asshole, or be, you know, be different, you know. Like, he's like won 3 Formula Drift championships, multiple European championships, possibly one of the most dominant drivers ever in the sport. And you're like, oh, are you pretty good at drifting? And he's like, yeah, I'm okay. And I'm like, shut up, you're the best, you know. So I think, and it's cool. And I see him come here last year and change to the new team. And as well, what's crazy is that, like, I know James very well. I know the way James kind of works and his opinion about stuff. And everyone's like, oh, it sucks that he had such a bad year last year, you know, even though it was still a good year, you know, for joining a new team. And I'm sitting there being like, it's probably actually quite good, because he's going to come back this year and you're going to see the James what you possibly never seen. I can say that openly. I've seen him in that position, and I've seen like how much the craziest part is that James has won everything and like won a lot more than I have and won a lot more than Jack has. And he still possibly wants to win more than anybody.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm even like, James, chill, man. Like go drive some rallycross or just go do something different. You've done everything. You don't need to do. And he's right now probably, I would say, in the most competitive mindset what I've seen in a long time from James Dean. And that's a scary James Dean for sure.
Yeah, it's funny because seeing him quote unquote struggle last year, like he spun out in Long Beach. It was the first time he spun out in competition in for sure. 6 years. And it was like, people watching are like, oh, that sucks he spun out. And I'm sitting there going like, no, there's like, these cars are tough. These are not easy cars to drive.
And I know personally from speaking to them that they're tough. And I probably wouldn't say tough, but very different, like so different.
Dynamic.
James has won everything in an S chassis, and an S chassis is arguably the nicest drift car in the world to drive. So I think that the change of understanding of a car is very, very different. And I think probably that's literally the only reason, that he kind of struggled a little bit, tried to get as much as he could out of it. And, but it's cool. For me, even looking from the outside, it's sick. He's driving with a professional team. He's, for performance on the car. It's sick to see that he's in that position. And I'm proud of him no matter what he's achieving results-wise to be in that position. It's sick. But yeah, all I'll say is that the James Dean we could see this year could be very different to the one we seen last year.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, a great example is Irwindale. Like the dude breaks his collarbone, almost totals an entire car and comes back and just crushes everybody.
Yeah. He was like, I might stop. He was like, I'm too sore. And me and my brother were like, get back in that car right now. We didn't fly all the ways here to watch you walk around in a sling. That your arm, and we were like, his arm is definitely not that sore. And then he gets home and shows us a scan, and I'm like, oh shit. Sorry,
it's like complete separation. Yeah.
But we're like, get back in that car and you're driving. You don't have another choice. I was like, I'm not talking to you if I've traveled the whole ways here to see you parked up in the pits.
I'm sure Becky just wasn't a big fan of you guys
Becky
doing that
was
either.
Not. She was like trying to pull him away, being like, oh, don't speak to them. And we're like, get back in the car right now. But yeah, he's a good dude, and I'm looking forward to driving with him on this side of the world as well as Europe.
I really hope you do. I mean, I would love to see kind of like a repeat of Poland. I mean, that was there are very few.
Once it comes out the same as what I did, or same outcome would be quite nice.
I had heard that your family basically gifted you that trip. That like they'd put their money together to make sure you could make it for that event to battle
for the start
James.
of Drift Masters.
Yeah. Like it was.
Yeah, it's quite a crazy story. Is that Jack was going to Europe that year, and I was supposed to compete in a pro Irish championship and a pro BDC championship at the time, British Drift Championship. And I remember I was driving in the car with my dad, like probably 3 weeks before Drift Master started. And my dad we're trying to find somebody to be like crew chief to help me run IDC and BDC because my dad was going to be busy with Jack in Europe. And then my dad just like, do you think you can get an entry to the Drift Masters? And I'm like, I have no idea. I need to ask Jack. And he's like, okay. So we speak to Jack, and Jack calls Eric from Drift Masters, and they're like, yeah, cool. You can get him an entry. And I went there with like zero expectation, with like a 580 brake horsepower car, which was like pretty crazy. And yeah, just everything clicked on that weekend. And I actually turned 15, like 10 minutes after I beat James that night. And the Polish crowd in the grandstand sang me happy birthday in Polish. And it was like the craziest experience I ever witnessed. And that was kind of the start of it, probably, to be honest. Like, I think I finished top 5 in the championship in Europe then. And then 2019, I had a terrible year. And then we came back with the GT86, and everything is just elevated from there, basically.
You're wasn't it like to get your pro license, you had to basically get a wild card every single round at BDC, so that way you could actually then compete in Drift Masters or something like that? Because they have the wild card qualifier.
How it actually happened was I finished second in a pro championship while competing in Pro-Am. So I used to win on a Saturday, and then I used to be able to drive in the pro class on the Sunday.
That was it.
Yeah, because basically what was happening at that time, everybody was like, move to pro when I was like 14. And but my dad was completely against it, because my dad was like, well, why would you move to pro when you're good enough to win a Pro-Am championship and possibly good enough to win a pro championship, but you can definitely finish top 3 or top 4 in a pro championship. So I basically, every event I used to have to go to, I used to have to finish on the podium on the Saturday in the Pro-Am to get entered into the pro class on the Sunday, and I was getting championship points for both championships, so it was quite mad. And then we done that for a year, won 2 Pro-Am championships and finished top 3, I think, in IDC and BDC Pro championships.
It's like finishing high school while you're taking college classes at the same time. It's like, that's how I see it. I do like that program. I would love to see FD do that too, where like the top 3 from prospect can go in.
I think they should. I think because it builds a driver up to the level what they are expecting to be at after they win, let's say, a prospect championship. You know, it gives them a taste of what's going on, tells them more about the program, which was probably a big thing for me, is that like, okay, I'm winning Pro-Am. Is my car good enough to win a pro championship? So it gives you a taste of everything for not a lot of money, basically. So I think it's quite a good format for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, you're kind of already there, and then based on how the weekends are even scheduled out. I mean, I would love to see it. I do think that there's a couple of, like, the jump between pro spec and pro is pretty heavy, even on a power side of things. There are definitely pro spec cars that can run north of 1,000, but most of them are like kind of tuned back to 6 to 8. Yeah. So it would, certain rounds they could go better than others, like St. Louis or New Jersey. It would definitely go well. Utah would be a bit more of a struggle. Atlanta would be a bit more of a struggle, but why not, right?
Yeah, I think for sure it's good to give them a taste of what they can expect, and if they want to make the jump up, well, then they can for the following year, basically.
Is there any tracks coming up that you're like concerned about? I mean, we talked about the Banks a little bit. You're not going to drive Atlanta,
honestly, being straight out, I don't even know, because I just don't like look too much into that kind of stuff until it's literally the week before. So right now, Long Beach is all what's on my mind. After Long Beach, it'll be Orlando, and that's kind of all I will look at for right now. So I think I'm super excited to drive Arundel, though. After being there, I'm like, this place is sick. Like, as in, I always say to like my friends and stuff, I'm like, it's very hard to say like, what's the last bit of a drift car? You know, like, what's the last bit of 1,000 brake horsepower fully gripped up? And I think Arundel is a prime example. I think that's where you're like at like the limit of 1,000 brake horsepower drift car, which is sick. Like, that's so cool to know that like you have to have a car at that level to be good enough to be able to be successful there. So I think that's one track for sure after being there last year where I'm like, okay, I definitely want to drive that. I'm quite disappointed I'm missing Road Atlanta.
Such a cool track.
I've always been a fan of Road Atlanta. Even from the simulator from years, I'm like, Road Atlanta is sick. But so we will miss that round, unfortunately, due to commitments with a full Drift Master Championship. But that's obviously the joys of the game. And we'll come back from Orlando. But as I said, look, I'm just ready to take everything step by step. I've got a lot to learn next week, and we'll get Long Beach out of the way, and then we'll look at what's next on the list.
Is there like anything outside of the driving that maybe people haven't realized is like a difficult part of being from Europe and then competing? Like, I mean, I know there's a bunch of like work visa paperwork and all that kind of stuff, but like, you know, things like jet lag or, I mean, some people don't travel well.
I'm screwed with that right now as I'm talking to
you. Are you? Yeah. Well, yeah, because it would be, so it's 8.
It's night. It's like 3, 4 a.m. right now. Or no, 2, 3 a.m. I think at home.
It's 4 hours from me, 9. Yeah. You're like 2:30, 2:45 in the morning right now. You're
I think probably it's, you know what's actually quite crazy? When I get here all the time, I just wake up super early. I called my mom the other day and she was asking me like, oh, what's going on? And I was like, you know what? So you'd be so proud of me if I lived here. And she was like, why? And I was like, I'd get so much work done. I'm up at like 7 a.m. every morning. That does not happen when I'm at home.
No, you're like a 10 a.m., 11 a.m. riser.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. You're not supposed to say that live, but I am. So
I did my homework, man. I called people. I know what's up.
Yeah, for sure. So now anybody who's I've told them busy in the morning is going to know that I'm lying. But no,
you're busy. You're busy sleeping.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm a late guy to sleep. I'm on the simulator until like 2, 3 a.m. I think, to be honest, as a driver, people have no idea sometimes, you know, the work, what's involved in, because essentially you're driving a car, you're driving the drift car. That's your main job, but you're also running a business. And that's like probably the part where people are like, what? How are you running? Even my friends who know me every day and know what I do and they're like, oh, you know, you're some easy life. And I'm like, live it for a couple of days and see how you get on. You know, it's like the work, what you need to do to one, have budget to do what you want to do. And, you know, working with companies and stuff, what you're very lucky to work with is honestly like basically a full-time job outside of driving the car. So I think that's probably the biggest thing is, you know, simple stuff for me coming here is like, we literally decided to put a program together in 4 weeks. So it's like, how do I get a race suit? How do I get team merchandise? How do I do all this stuff? And I'm rocking up to Long Beach next week being like, don't even know if I'm going to have a race suit. You know, I have race suits from Europe, but you know, all that stuff is like, you know, quite stressful to work. And also as well, my program is definitely supported by a lot of European companies who've worked with me in Europe, and I'm super happy that they've made the jump with me to Formula Drift. You know, so that's probably a big thing, making sure that everything is shipped from them and contracts and everything what's involved is quite a lot of work. And I think people sometimes don't really see that. And then as a driver, you got to be at the top of your game if you want to win these events. And for me, it's thousands of hours on a simulator, writing notes, looking at every information, every last detail, what you can find out about somebody. Nobody looks at that part. Some drivers don't even look at that part.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't. I mean,
they don't.
I mean, some
they're
guys
like,
have
how did you win? And I'm like, well, that's for me to know, not for you to find out.
It's interesting to hear, I guess, about the notes and the homework, because I know of drivers that kind of show up for the weekend and they're just good and they can just jump in and like, no, if I think about it too much, that's when I make mistakes. Whereas other guys
for sure,
are full
you definitely can look at that as well. Like I've often thought about that as well, and it's not like they're studying every single driver inside out. It's just kind of more, you know, some drivers, to be honest, have driving styles where you could get caught out quite easily. And it's not that they're a dirty driver. It's not that they're playing games. It's just that they might drive safer than somebody else. And I feel like for me, I would never do that in Europe. Like I would never in my life even watch a live stream back. I wouldn't even barely watch my own runs back. But the fact that here, there's some drivers on the grid that I've never even seen them slide a car. So that's probably, you know, the biggest thing is that I have to, you know, look at the drivers. And for sure, I've watched Formula Drift for a long time, and you know the Asbo, you know the Turk, and you know all those guys, and you know how good they are. But you know, there's a guy who you might battle in the, you know, for example, in the last, what is it called? The last day, or
we're working on names, man. I mean, if you got an idea.
So what I have to do basically. Yeah. So, you know, that's probably the biggest thing is that like, you just got to be careful that you don't get caught out about something what you would be quite annoyed about, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But drifting is a crazy sport because there's like so much stuff involved. What, to be honest, in theory probably looks like quite simple from the outside, because you're just like, oh, nobody knows what to call it. Nobody knows how professional it is. Nobody really knows what the right example of drifting is. So I think that's what makes drifting quite exciting for the drivers, is that there's so much unknown all the time, you know, and they're just trying to grow an audience and work with each other. And I think that's what I'm probably most excited to see. You know, in Europe, we as drivers are honestly all best friends. You know, we fight it out for a championship, we fight it out for an event, and an hour later, 2 hours later, we're all probably drinking some beers, talking smack to each other. And that's what we enjoy about it, because my attitude always is about drifting is that we're just a group of people. When I left school, left education, was like, I'm going to become a professional drifter. I didn't even know if professional drifter was an option then. I mean, but you know, I think it's like, for me, working with all these group of drivers is that the better we are and the better we are as people, that's the better for the sport. You know, that we all have to work together to grow this sport, what we all love, and get it to last and get it to be at a level that we can all get paid from it and stuff. So I think I'm looking forward to that, just generally just making friends here in Formula Drift. And I've already been close with some drivers here, and I'm looking forward to driving with them, enjoying driving with them, and just taking it all in basically and having a good time while I'm here.
I'm selfishly really hoping that your dad comes over a bit more.
Yeah, you don't want to see my dad. The fact that it's kind of my own program, my dad for sure will be stuck under a car with a hammer at Sledge or something.
Man, dude, Ferropolis, when you banged up a little bit and I saw your dad, I don't even think a hammer was needed, but he was using the shit out of it, and it was hilarious.
Yeah,
I just turned around,
sure.
there's
my
your
dad
old man,
is probably the craziest man that you would ever meet, and that's for sure. Stories.
Yeah.
I could do a whole separate podcast telling you about my dad.
I was warned ahead of time. Mike Walton from BDC who I was co-announcing with on that weekend.
Yeah, Mike would have known my dad from a long time. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's like, oh, that's old man Shanahan. I was like, okay. He's like, hey, like, be careful chatting with him. I was like, why? He's like, because he'll talk you into doing something that you probably don't want to actually do. And,
we call my dad, like in Drift Masters, all the drivers call my dad like the clown of the circus. Like if somebody is wrecking a rental car or somebody is doing something what he shouldn't be doing, it's for sure my dad. But you know, my dad, to be honest, is probably the reason why who I am, is because the work that this guy puts in is like, my dad cares about winning more than anything in life, and that's for sure. And that's been it like since we've been kids. You finish second, you're not getting spoke to for 2 weeks, and that's it. You know, it's like it's honestly cutthroat, and you know, and I think I wouldn't change it. Lots of people, all of my friends used to say like, "Geez, your dad is harder than you," and I'm like, he wants the best for me. He wants me to be in the position I'm in right now, and you know. And to be honest, when I was leaving the other day saying goodbye to my parents to come here and drive was honestly like a little bit sad, because I've done my whole life with them. I don't think they've ever missed a race while I've driven. You know, so for them to be at home watching the live stream while I'm driving here is going to be a little bit different, a little bit what we're not used to. But for sure, I'll probably still, if I don't win, I'll still get the phone call from my dad being like, "What the fuck are you doing?" So, but yeah, I think my dad and or mine and Jack's relationship is quite interesting. Sometimes it's probably not the best because we all want the best for each other. But that's what's cool about my family, is that they've literally put every single thing into what we can do. You know, and I know that they'll be proud next weekend watching no matter what. So I think that's probably not even just proud about me, but they can sit back and say, we've got a son driving a Formula Drift, and that's all thanks to them, because they never gave up in the journey once, and believed that it was all possible. And I think, you know, winning the championship last year in Drift Masters was very emotionally attached for me, because it left all those things go. It left all those doubts of sitting around the kitchen table being like, are we good enough? You know, why are we sacrificing all this money running my dad's business into the ground? And yeah, that last year when I won that championship and lifted that trophy, like hugging my parents after that was probably like the best feeling ever, because they could sit back and be like, okay, it was worth it. He's now, you know, won a major title, and he's now making money from doing what he loves, and they for sure should be proud of that. And I think that's what's exciting for me about a driver, is that I drive off those emotions still, and I drive that I want to be better than everybody else. And as I said before, I want to be the best driver ever to do this sport, and I will do anything no matter what that takes. I
mean, I think we're going to hear all of Cork cheering the moment that you pull up to the line, dude. Like,
yeah, for sure. They're the most. My village is like, so my friends base. We live in like a super small area, and my group of friends probably is like a lot of the population. But you know, I've got a good group of friends, and they make the whole program at home work. They're literally in the garage probably right now with my brother still working on the cars, but they're the best people ever. And you know, my village is kind of like old style Ireland. You know, it's like very, just people stay to themselves. There's one pub there. There's not a whole pile going on. But then my friends who are my age, they're like drifting crazy, and they've like showed now everybody what this sport is. And Poland last year, there was probably, I'm not even joking, half of the village came to watch the event, and we had like a party for a week when I came home after I won the championship. And it was like, it was honestly crazy. But they'll be at home. The event will be quite late for them, but they'll be cheering on for sure. And that's what makes it. That's what drifting is about for me, is putting on a show for those people and putting on a show. And I'm excited to put on a show for this new audience as well, because that's what's you know, exciting for me, that people haven't seen what I do and haven't seen me in a car, and there'll be a lot of people in Long Beach who will experience me in a drift car for the first time.
Look, a bunch of you use this code all 2023. Let's keep that train rolling. So if you are looking for some awesome FD apparel, different stuff, you know, things to buy, maybe it's not for you, maybe it's for somebody else, might as well save a couple of dollars. So when you're on shopfd.com, use podcast 24, just the, you know, podcast numbers, you know, podcast 24 at checkout, save yourself 20%. And yeah, if you do, let me know. Just if you see me in person, give me a high five, say, hey, thanks for saving 20%. Maybe online, shoot me just shoot a note. You know where to find me. Links are in the description, all that stuff. If you feel like stalking me or just letting me know that you save some money. So shopfd.com, podcast 24, save yourself some money. Yeah, I'm excited for everybody. I mean, sometimes I guess I get a little bit jaded just being so deep in the weeds of drifting.
I'm the same as that as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like it's cool when you get to experience something kind of new where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
this is, I don't know a lot about this person. I mean, there's some drivers that are kind of coming over. And I mean, even looking into like next year, I'm already like kind of preparing like, okay, who could we see from this championship?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's like, that was always the exciting part about me coming to FD was that, and as well, what's exciting is that, you've had the James era, you've had the Asbo era, and for sure they will have their era again, absolutely. And I think this year for me is probably, if something good comes out of it, I'm buzzing. I'm excited if we can. And for sure, look, as I said, I'm not turning up here to be, last on the list. I want to turn up and I'm going to put in the work to try win some events. But I think this year, I'm not coming in here being like, oh, I want to win a championship in my first year. Obviously, missing the round and stuff is not going to. It's not really possible. But for sure, from 2025 on, the plan is that you're going to see not just Conor Shanahan's era, but you'll see the Shanahan's era, I hope. And me and Jack will hopefully be out here and have a campaign here and change the Shanahans as well as running in Drift Masters to Formula Drift would be the ideal scenario for us. And I think that's what the goal would be, is to, dominate in Europe and try dominate a Formula Drift eventually at some stage as well.
That'd be wild, dude.
Yeah, it would be pretty sick. And we literally want to replicate a team, which is crazy. We want to run here in 2 new GR86s and basically use all the data what we've gathered in Europe and our business and try find a solution to work with the partners here and have 2 replica teams at some stage. I don't know how soon that will be, but that's the goal for sure. And I'm excited, and I'm excited to put a smile on some faces, meet some fans, and enjoy some drifting with people who also enjoy some drifting. Yeah,
the US fan base is phenomenal. I mean,
it's so cool. Even when I was in Arundel, I was like, this is sick. The pit parties and all that kind of stuff is a little bit different in Europe. We probably don't have like so much of that. So I think that's what's quite cool, is that and it comes back to all that stuff, what's in the unknown as well. People on the unknown. And honestly, I'm just going to really enjoy, because as you said, you're sometimes so deep in drifting, and you're sometimes, for me as a driver, I can go so deep into the thought that I want to win and I need to win. And you can think about all those things 100 times. But sometimes, you just got to step back and like actually take in what's going on, because it's like you're achieving something before you even ever get in the car. And I think for me, a prime example of that was like coming back to the last round of Poland last year when it was like 60,000 people in a stadium. That was not just about a Drift Masters event. That was worldwide drifting. That was the work what Drift Masters has put in, the work what Formula Drift has put in, every championship in the world. That was for me like a really, really cool event, what I got to witness. And I was so deep in the thought of winning a championship, because that's all I was thinking about that night from the get-go. Was that I think it was like the top 8, I think I just literally kind of got out of the car out and we got the win, and I still just got back in the car, and it was like there was not one person there. That's my head was just like so. And I remember I won the championship in the semi-final, went to the final, and I was talking to my spotter, and the vibes were good because I was after winning, but I had Laurie Heinen in the final, and everyone was like, oh, like chill, and I'm still like focused, laser, Conor Shanahan zone, and I'm like, and my spotters, I'm like talking to my spotter, and my spotter's like, relax, dude, you have the hard work done. And I was like, no, I don't. And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, dude, the guy who's second in the championship, if he beats me right now, I look like an idiot. I was like, I gotta absolutely destroy this guy. And he's like, okay, whatever you think. But then it was quite funny is that as I came out of the burnout box, all the lights came on the phone, and I just like stepped back like in the car and just was like, that is like the wildest thing I've ever seen. And I remember pressing the radio just before I took off, and I was like, none of this matters. I was like, look what we're doing. I was like, look what we've just achieved as a worldwide drifting, community. And I think that's what's like, that's what I'm looking forward to next weekend, is just like enjoying the experience, enjoying the simple things, walking the track, meeting people that you've never met before. And I think it's quite easy to forget about those stuff because you're so deep in the thought of it.
Well, I think there's such a unnecessary division sometimes. Like, at the end of the day, our sport's not that big. In the grand scheme of sport, it's really not that big.
The community and the inside is tiny.
Yeah. So, it I always enjoy the discourse and kind of like the friendly arguments back and forth about different series and tires and drivers and chassis and all the what ifs. Like I love the what ifs, but it is frustrating. People are like, oh, this needs to be more like that. And it's like, no, listen, like we just need to support the sport to show, to show that people should, exactly. Like, I mean, there isn't a friendly way, but
it's the same for me because it's like everyone has this debate being like, okay, I come here. Let's say I come here and I win Long Beach, okay? Yeah. And everyone's like, oh, Drift Masters. I come here and I lose Long Beach.
And it's
FD. And I'm like, just shush. Like, enjoy the moment. Yeah. Enjoy what you're about to witness in. And as well, what's quite crazy is that we said this a couple of times last year in Europe, is that people are actually probably witnessing some of the best driving in drifting, what possibly could be. You know, the level of worldwide drifting right now it's scary how good it is. And I think people sometimes, you know, and it's the same, that comes back to all the hate between drivers, and it annoys me so much as a driver. You know, it's like you go out and for probably 2.5 minutes you hate that person. You don't even hate them, you just want to be better than them.
Yeah.
And you get out of the car and you possibly could go for dinner with that same person that night and talk about drifting, talk about life. And then in the same time, you've got a guy sitting at home who has no idea about you, no idea about the guy he's writing about. And he's like, oh, slating the person because I beat him, or slating the person because the person beat me. And I'm like, you know, sometimes I'm like, dude, I literally just had dinner with the guy like 2 hours ago. We really don't care. Stop being negative. Just be positive towards the sport and enjoy what you're witnessing, because, you know, at the end of the day, it's quite a difficult sport when it comes to the terms of fans, because you've got 3 guys doing an incredible, difficult job, which is judging. Yeah. And, you know, like I honestly sometimes question how this sport ever even has judges. And, you know, I've often said this publicly, being like, you know, stop the hate, because without these 3 guys, we don't have a championship.
Yeah, we don't.
And that's what sometimes, you know, even my own family, everybody gets pissed off. I get pissed off about calls sometimes where you don't speak about it. You know, that's drifting, and that's what you decided to do, that sport. So why give out about the sport you're doing? You know, so I think when I look at people, I'm just like, if I'm not giving out about it, you definitely shouldn't be giving out about it, you know? So just chill, just enjoy the rest of the event, leave the guys alone. They're doing an incredibly hard job. Whether I'm annoyed with them or whether anybody's annoyed with them, it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't matter. You know, just move on from the call and just forget about it, you know? And I think that's what's like sometimes can be just like a difficult thing, because it's a judge sport, and that's the joys of it, you know?
Yeah, I could never be a judge. There's no way.
No way. I mean, I couldn't be either. Not a hope. No. Like my spotter at home in Europe, he done like literally a winter battle series event, like very low level. And he just done it because the championship was stuck for some help. And I was like, yeah, just go do it, whatever. And he like finished the first one and was like, never again. He was like, never, you know. And me and him have often had conversations, you know, like not giving out about judges, but obviously our opinion, you know, being you know, which is fair. Every driver has their own opinion. Just keep it to yourself, I think, is the best option. You know, and we were laughing that night after he judged the event, being like, you know, he'll never speak about a judge the same way, because he now knows how basically shit it is to have somebody talking about you, you know. So I think it's a good way of, if you had every person who complains about the judges, get them to be a judge for 10 minutes, and I think they'll change their attitude. Yeah,
I think even drivers should do a round, like something, maybe not in FD, but like at some level.
Honestly, I think drivers speaking, like, I think as far as I would go about something is that, like, I think I've done a good enough job, which is cool. That's your opinion. I personally think that I've done a good enough job. I'm happy to admit that. But when I see drivers crying online about judges, or I see them crying about stuff for like a long time, I'm just like, why? Why be that guy?
What do you get out of it?
No, what's the benefit? So pointless. You know, literally after the event, for me, if I ever have something what's like, okay, I'm like, that's bad, you know, or I think, you know, I want an explanation or whatever, just go speak to the judge quite nicely after the event, being like, hey, can you just give me an explanation? I want to learn from it. That's all I want from it. And then it's job done. You know, but you see, like, I think it's probably one of the worst things a professional driver can do is when they're slating people online or having an argument with a fan, what they don't even know about that. Oh yeah, big up me, and I've never met you in my life, but thanks for the support. You know, it's like, stop, man. Don't do that. You know, just like be more respectful for the sport. Don't be that guy who's kind of negative and bring it down basically.
What do you think is the next step for the sport? Like, I think within the car community, we've done a lot to like expand it. I think within the car community, everybody knows what drifting is. Even stuff like you being on Top Gear at like 13, like that's huge. That expands the sport. But like, what do we need to do to get it outside of the realm of just car people?
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest question worldwide. You know, America and Europe, it doesn't matter where you are. I think we all want the sport to be as big as possible. Honestly, I think the sport has huge potential to be like a huge sport because there's not many sports where you can go and sit in one spot, drink beer all day with your family and watch the whole event from start to finish, the whole show. You don't miss one thing. You know, you go to a rally or something, you'll see a car for like 30 seconds and you were after walking like 10 miles to get there. So as a fan sport, it's so friendly user. You know, it's crazy how friendly user the sport is because you get to witness personalities, you get to witness incredible driving, a skill what sometimes is overlooked because you're literally the definition of driving a car out of control, in control. And, you know, I feel like, to be honest, a reason what's changing it in Europe is that drivers from other motorsport disciplines are starting to respect drifters a lot more. And I think that's probably the biggest thing what will help is that they're like, dude, I cannot drift. I don't know how to drift. And what you guys can do with a car is like phenomenal, you know. And I think that's something for me, what I quite enjoy to do is try a different discipline and try, you know, use the skill, what you've had from drifting in something else. And just try crossovers because, you know, at the end of the day, drifting is a type of motorsport. And I think motorsport should all help each other, you know, no matter what you're doing, whether it's NASCAR, whether it's drifting, whether it's rallying, it doesn't make a difference. You know, everybody is into their own thing, but at the end of the day, we're still trying to push to help motorsport because no motorsport outside of Formula One is probably, you know, what here is probably NASCAR in America.
Yeah, but F1's still huge in the US now. Like it's growing like crazy.
Yeah, for sure. But like, I think that's on a complete other planet compared to any other motorsport. You know, I think it's for sure, in my opinion, right now, probably one of the biggest sports in the world because it's gone crazy, which is amazing. It's so cool to see. And I think drifting has a good potential to be in a position where it can definitely grow a lot more than it is. And it can definitely be bigger than it is and have you know, like a much better take with the public eye, because I feel like as well, the business model of drifting of the future is probably what is the biggest thing, what needs to be looked at. You know, how can you reach out or how can you do stuff? What's different? Or, you know, I think probably right now in Europe, that's probably the biggest goal is that they are like, okay, the driving is good, the championship is good, but how do we sell this to a lot more people? So I think for sure, there's definitely possibilities in the future that we can try and make the sport bigger. And with the help of all of us drivers, that's also how we do it, is grow as much public name as we can and be in the best places we can. And that all benefits the sport. Yeah,
I've said this a lot last year and it still goes in this year, that we're like one thing, one company, one video, one series away from the sport popping off. And
I agree.
It's not. Yeah. I mean, look at Drive to Survive with F1. That's the best example, right?
Yeah. As well, what's crazy is that like when I came to the end of last year in Europe, it's by far the best position I've ever seen a sport in. Is that like we thought the same as even a family. We were like, you know, it's so close now. Like it's so close to being the next big thing. And as I said, coming back, I fully believe it can be because, you know, and as well, what's quite crazy is that the Drift Masters business model is actually probably very well suited to the American market.
Oh, yeah. Like the hype that Dave is able to build. Or
not even so much the hype of all that stuff, because Formula Drift also do an incredible job of that. Yeah. It's not even about comparing a championship. It's more that if a Formula Drift could run like stadium style events.
Right.
Like, yeah, okay, an oval, whatever, but it's not a stadium. It's not.
Yeah, it's not a closed, encapsulated
because
area.
I feel like, you know, from my opinion of American people, which I don't have a great opinion because I've only been here like 3 times in my life, is that like, I think if you can have something where you can just literally go, NFL is a prime example. It's like it's like a concert, a match. It's like everything in one. You can drink beer, you can go with your family, you can do all that stuff, and you can literally watch it from one seat. You don't have to move for the whole event, and I think that's probably the biggest thing, is getting it in places where you're like can sell it out and basically get the local support behind that also, to make sure that there's shitloads of people going to come to the event. And I think that's probably the best way to do it is try put on the biggest events in the world, basically.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, we're similar, like we're in such a good spot now where multiple FD rounds last year sold out.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like,
which is
okay,
amazing.
it's there. Yeah, it's there. Like the want is there. There's a need for it. As I've said before, I think the general cost to rent a stadium in Poland is a little bit different than Los Angeles.
Oh, that's
I
sure.
don't think the scales are quite the same. But
that is for sure.
I know what you're saying though. Like but once again, like a big company comes along and goes,
exactly.
Hey, we want to put it. Yeah, we want to do it.
It's,
right.
My opinion right now is the thing. What's missing is probably that company.
Right.
Because you look at something. You look at other companies, and sport is sport, and motorsport is motorsport. But the back of everything is a business. No matter what, it's a business. Like a driver is basically a business. So I think that's probably the biggest thing, is that like from a business point of view is where that solution is found, basically. That they can find a way to get access to more people, to blow it up more on media, to be more mainstream media, as you mentioned, like Drive to Survive, all those things. But I think the position we're in right now it's pretty good. I think we can't complain, to be honest.
Well, like this is going to sound really shitty. Don't take this the wrong way, but one of the biggest excitements I had with you coming over was the potential of bringing Red Bull back to FD.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing for me also.
Yeah. And I'm sure there was like a bunch of paperwork and stuff that had to go on because Red Bull Europe and Red Bull USA are two very different entities.
Yeah, well, actually, to be honest, I'm still working with Red Bull Europe right now.
Right, but there's like
even,
departments that have to sign off on stuff to allow.
But
that
it's super cool that Red Bull Europe were interested in helping me and making me make sure that I was in a good position in Formula Drift. And I think Red Bull is a huge reason why Drift Masters is what it is right now.
Yeah,
of course, for sure. And they understand drifting quite well. But then also it comes back to the reason why they understand drifting so well is because they also know it's close, and they also know the numbers, what it does. And like I think right now it's probably outside of Formula One, the number one watch sport on Red Bull TV is drifting, which is crazy, ahead of all the sports what they cover. So I think it's cool to see that they're willing to put in the work and look at different options. And as a company, I'm just proud that they love drifting as just as much as I do, and they're willing to help me to drive no matter where I want to go.
Yeah, I hope this maybe brings some eyes back to like the US part of Red Bull, or
for sure.
Makes Red Bull kind of like rethink like, oh, here's our initial investment in the sport, or within, Europe and then the US, and go, maybe we should double down. Like the US market is so massive. Like,
100%.
That's me extrapolating and
the
hoping.
US market is crazy compared to Europe. Even as a driver, it's crazy. And and I think also as well, that's what's my whole program is generated around those things for this year, is that like, it's like we could have not done it. Which to be honest was a decision what was very close, and it was a decision what was kind of made. And then we were like, okay, we can do it. And I think my program, like of a model of what I would have came to Formula Drift with, is very different. And the model what I probably would have came to Formula Drift was, 2J GT86, very similar to what I had in Europe. Yeah, coming here for one reason and one reason only, and that's to win championship. Whereas right now I'm kind of looking and being like, okay, it's a little bit different if I come here right now. But it gives us so much time to learn, and gives us almost one full season of figuring stuff out with Red Bull, figuring stuff out with, other existing partners and new partners. And learning the market of what's the right way to be successful in this market on a business model, or what's the, all those things what are so important to make the next thing successful, which is winning a championship. Because if you don't have that stuff sorted, you don't have the budget to be here. So I think this year is very beneficial, and I think people are probably going to be like, oh, maybe it was a better decision if you waited or whatever, but it's not, because the possibility of still winning events is there, and I know that for sure. And then we have one full season, which is basically like just a learning season that we can sit back and learn all these things, learn about FD, learn about drivers, learn about the American market, and then hopefully come back in 2025 with even a better, nicer program. And I hope that the driving doesn't change much, because I want to be also successful this year. And it's still a main priority to be successful in the car this year and try give it my all. But as you said, it can for sure open up a lot of doors, and that's what the plan is for me to be here.
Yeah, it's basically data acquisition. It's
exactly.
Okay, let's see. It's you're dating before you get married kind of thing.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Which is always a good idea.
Yeah, I would hope. No, I don't know. It's like prearranged marriage is still a thing in Ireland. Like,
no, for sure not. For sure. Not for me anyway. Not for me anyway. But yeah, like, moral of the story, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to drive with and be with all you guys, because I've been, as I said, a fan of what you guys are doing and a fan of Formula Drift, and it's cool to come out here and hang out. And as the helmet goes on, the nice guy will probably disappear, and I'll try to do my best. And being realistic, I'm probably going to try be as competitive as I can. How competitive that will be in the chassis what I am and the program what I have, I honestly have no idea. I will do another podcast with you after Long Beach, and I'll answer all those questions.
Well, it's funny. I was so torn about this. Like, in all honesty, like I was pushing you to get on the show for sure. This was me going like, hey, like I need you to come on, because part of me wanted you to come on to like set the tone, and then I also wanted to wait to get your reaction after Long Beach. And I mean, there's no reason why we can't chat.
For sure.
Near the
I
end
definitely
of the
think
season,
it will be worth doing one after Long Beach, because I think there's so many questions there. What will be answered as that weekend ticks off, where the difference of driving, then you have a good example of everything what's going on. So
I almost want to wait till the end of the year. I kind of want to get have you take the whole thing in, have all the travel, go through every situation.
Let's
and then
see how Long
okay.
Beach goes. That probably is the best situation.
Yeah, we'll touch base.
If Long Beach is terrible, I'm definitely not doing a podcast. If Long Beach is great, I'll be ringing you, be like, let's do one.
Yeah, let's go. So,
I think, look, as I said, I know what work it takes to win at a top level of drifting. I know it's on a different side of the world. And I know that how much work I will have to put in if I want to win here. And that's probably the biggest thing. And the main thing is that I'm willing to put in the work, and I want to be someday for sure Formula Drift champion. I don't think that's probably an option right now with missing around, but
it could happen still.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not bigging myself up. If it was after the first round, after the first round, I would talk happily and talk the way I want to talk. But right now, I'm nervous. I'm just gonna stay on my own. I'm gonna do my own thing. My program is gonna be super simple. I basically will be kind of running my own program, which is quite cool. So it'll be like my own mechanics, my own crew chief, which is quite nice. And I think it'll make it like a little bit more kind of just friendly environment with me and with Jack on the radios for me and stuff. And as I said, I'm just going to play it cool. I'm not going to big up anything, and let's see what we can manage to do.
I don't know whether you meant to say it or just slipped, but like you said you were a bit nervous. Like how are you managing
honestly,
all this?
I'm not really nervous about driving the car. That's probably the last thing.
No.
About.
I'm not worried. Like, I don't think there's any concern about you driving. I think it's everything else.
The nerves comes from the nerves probably starts because I hate losing, and the nerves probably starts because of like it's a lot of pressure and it's a lot of all these things. But I use nerves as an exciting thing. Like nerves kind of excite me. To be honest, I enjoy it. Like as Daniel Ricciardo says, enjoy the butterflies and enjoy the experience. Because I think it's it makes you feel like you're doing something right. Because if I wasn't nervous, it would just be like I'm showing up and I don't really care. But the fact that I'm nervous shows that I'm turning up, and I'm nervous that I want to win and I want to be as good as I can be. So I think the fact that I'm nervous is that there's so much unknown. There's so much unknown. It's actually crazy. I don't even try to register how much unknown there is because it's so different to what I'm used to. But at the same time, it's like, that's just an incredible experience, what I'm about to experience. And I'm excited for that also.
Yeah, I'm glad you're grasping onto that part too. Like I'm somebody it takes a very long time for me to recognize what's going on. Like I've had a lot of people talk about like the announcing part, like, oh, are you like how's that going? I'm like, it's not even gonna register until Long Beach is over and I'm on the plane home. And
that's kind of, I think I used to be quite like that as well. I used to be like, just like not register anything until it's done. And then I just kind of started to be like, okay, let's kind of look at like, take everything day to day and enjoy it, because you're in a unique position also. You're not driving, but you're in a really cool position that you get to do this. And I think that's what's crazy, is that like it's like a whole circus what travels around, in this instance is like travels around America, and we're all so lucky that we all get to be a part of it, and we'll all get to hang out with each other and do all cool things. And I think you got to enjoy those experiences. You got to enjoy those experiences with everybody who's with you. And, that's what I'll be saying to even the guys who are working with me, is that do your job, keep to yourself, don't cause any drama, but just enjoy it also, don't go home from Long Beach being like, I can't even remember what happened, step back and enjoy the occasion. And for sure, for me, it'll just be, earpods in, listen to some music and try to get some work done.
Are you prepared for very subpar Guinness? Like, is that...
Don't drink Guinness anyway.
Oh, okay. All right. We're getting these bottle of Jamesons and
whiskey's quite nice.
There you go. I'll bring you.
To be honest, I'll be if I pull something off in Long Beach, I'll drink Guinness. That's for sure.
All right. I was hanging out with the Drift Games guys, obviously at the LZ World Tour, and they were telling me
Guinness.
They were telling me how terrible Guinness is in the States in comparison.
Well, I would know the difference of a good pint of Guinness and a bad pint of Guinness for sure. I
would hope so.
I've drank Guinness. I'm just not a huge. It just makes me feel very full, Guinness.
Yeah, it's like a meal. It's a meal in a glass.
It is like some of my friends can drink like 10, 12 pints of it, no problem. And I'm like, how are you doing that? Like, James Dean is the man to ask about Guinness. He'll give you a full detail of every pint worldwide. I
know. I've had. I wouldn't say the full talk, but I've had part of the talk already.
For sure. James is a good man for knowing what a good pint of Guinness is.
Yeah, I'm very excited to go to Ireland for the first time and have a proper pint of Guinness. That's
for sure. I'm already excited just to enjoy it and head back home and hopefully drink a pint for a good reason. Hopefully.
When are you flying back after Long Beach?
I'll fly back on the Wednesday.
Oh, so you're sticking around for a couple of days then?
Yeah, I'll stick around. I actually was going to stay and watch Rome do Super Drift, but then I need to get home.
Yeah,
things are nowhere near ready for Drift Masters, so Jack's unhappy with me, and then I'm dragging him away for a couple of days as well. I got to get home and make sure everything is good to go for that.
He'll be fine. He'll be. Is he sticking till Wednesday too?
No, he's flying in Thursday just before the event and flying home Sunday.
Jesus. Okay.
Yeah, he's going to be so jet lagged. He's not even going to recover from the jet lag here, and he's going to go back. So he's going to blame me if he's getting no work done.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what part I struggled with more, like going to Europe or coming back from Europe. I think coming to from Europe to North America was tougher for me.
My struggle for sure is going home.
Really? Okay.
Because when I'm here, it's not too bad. I just wake up early and that's cool. Like, it's fine. I sleep early. It's grand. But when I go home, oh my God, you think I'm bad at 10 a.m. Trying to get me out of bed is tough work.
You almost have to like pull an all-nighter. You kind of just have to like hard reset it. And just like, I'm just going to stay awake and then...
You can get quite lucky also if you fly. So like if you're flying back to Ireland, you're flying into time. So let's say technically if you're flying during the night and you try to go to sleep for basically the whole journey of the plane, you wake up and then you feel kind of quite fresh and you can do the day and then go to sleep that night. So it's not too bad if you do it that way. But yeah, unfortunately I don't have a private jet, so I can't control the time of the flights.
Come on, man. Red Bull's got one. You can't just make a phone call and be like, listen, guys, I need to borrow this.
I wish.
Can you guys call Max real quick and just like, can we borrow that?
The day I have a private jet from drifting is the day that we're all winning.
Yeah, I hope so, man. I really do.
Hope so too. I hope so too.
would honestly would love for that to happen. I do feel like I came in at a very great time for the sport. Like,
yeah, for sure. Even for me as well, it's like I'm still quite young, 20 years of age, so it's quite nice to be this age. And I think also that's 20? Exciting.
You can't even drink in the States. What are you talking about?
That's what I'm super excited about coming to FD, because I think like being young and stuff it creates some hype as well for people who don't know who I am at events and stuff. It's going to be quite fun.
There's such a weird obsession with that, with like how young they were, and I don't know
Irish
why.
as well. Irish is amazing.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you basically started at like 5, and then we're ditching cars in the field.
Racing since I've been 6, 7.
That's nuts.
Yeah,
I don't think
I've had no other choice. If I wasn't, I don't know what I would have done if I wasn't decent at this. To be honest, I left school. I don't have anything else, so I have no other choice to make it.
You could have been the captain of the Killamock soccer club.
Yeah, maybe, but that was a different career path. What I was going down for a while, and then we decided to venture back into cars. My dad was not happy when I was playing football.
No,
didn't even come to watch matches. Nothing.
Damn, that's crazy. I mean, my dad was very competitive when it came to ice hockey, so I get it. Yeah, I had
for sure.
For like my sixth or 7th birthday, I had the wrong team on my cake. I had my favorite team when I was 6.
Yeah, but it
wasn't the family team. And my dad refused to eat the cake.
Oh, no
I like very distinctly remember that. So.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds familiar.
Yeah, I do remember that sure. the car rides home of like not performing well and just like those super awkward drive homes.
They're quite rough. They're rough for sure.
You don't know what to say. Yeah.
I think the thing with my dad was that he was never really probably like hard on us, because for him it wasn't for him. It was never for him, and it was just kind of always for us.
Yeah.
To be a better person. That's kind of always what his attitude was. And I think with driving cars, the simple fact was that he was spending a lot of money, and that can be quite heartbreaking when shit goes wrong. So nothing to do with cars is cheap. And I definitely know that, and he knows that also. So I think that was probably the only reason. It wasn't like he was just doing it just to be, just to be ignorant or anything like that. It was kind of, he wanted it because he knew that one day we would be lining up to drive in Long Beach, I suppose, if you want to put it that way. So it's kind of, it's a cool story, and it's cool that he's still involved. I could still call him right now to drive a truck around Europe or anything, and he still would do it,
America,
no problem. So,
or anything.
Yeah, no problem. If I call him right now to fly here, they were going to come out, but things are just quite busy at home and stuff. So we'll hopefully get him out for the next round.
Yeah, no, that'd be sweet. I do want to know, just because you have such a good perspective on it, who in either Ireland or Europe in general right now has got you excited when it comes to drifting? Like who in the US, like, would they not know that you're like, you need to look this person up?
It's a difficult question. As in, like, who's my favorite driver in Europe?
Maybe, or just somebody that you like know is going to do incredibly well in the coming years.
Drift Masters is quite difficult to answer that question because there's so many good guys. It's crazy. Like, trying to think of somebody young who I think could make.
Even like a local guy or girl.
Well, in Ireland, we're elected men. We're honestly, it's honestly incredible. Like we have one guy who literally, if you drove out of James Dean's home house and directly across the road, we have one kid right now. He's 16, and I can promise you right now that this kid is going to make it somewhere like big, because his talent is phenomenal, but his work ethic and his marketing training at that age is like, I'm like talking to him being like, how do you know how to do this? But he's so good. And what the crazy part is that it's another guy from the village. And he's about to turn pro, and he's honestly sick. So I think the generation of Irish drifting is just incredible. Like, it's super, super good.
I need to come and bottle that water. Like, I don't.
Yeah,
I know it's like field drifting, but yeah, I know.
Yeah, what's
James
funny
said it
is
was field
that
drifting.
me and James, when we, like, if we field drifted, would have been at this kid's dad's house. That's how he got into drifting, watching us drive around the fields, and then he bought a car himself. Yeah,
that's
he's
so funny.
Super good. Own Magner for sure. He will be he'll be a name in the future. But in Drift Masters, there's lots. You got, if as a fan of drifting, to be honest, I actually genuinely love watching Jack, my brother, as a driver because he's like
Yeah.
the guy who's like on the limit 24/7. There's like when he's driving a car, even if it's like a rally car, it doesn't matter what it is. It's like the definition of how hard you can drive a car. It's like
He's wild.
It screws him over sometimes. Like he probably should have won the championship, not me last year because he was just being an idiot. But you know, he's so entertaining to watch because you're literally, if he put like, I've seen him pull runs off where I'm like, holy, like that's wild, you know. So I think, yeah, as a style and a fan of drifting, I generally just, not just because he's my brother, I just generally respect him as a driver. So many. Kavia is sick.
Yeah,
there's
Kvyat's
a list
nuts.
of like loads of drivers that you're just, they're so good, and I think that's why for me winning a Drift Master Championship last year was a huge achievement because we've been trying to beat Peter Vientek's program for 4 years now, and it's like,
well, it's the most, arguably one of the most funded programs in the world, and then your program obviously has money, but it's like, I went over your cars.
Money, yeah.
I went over your cars. They're crazy basic.
Yeah,
like
simple as can be.
Super basic. And then
I think for me, it's like, we always used to say this, and as well, and it's no disrespect to Peter because in my opinion, Peter is actually probably one of my favorite drifters in the world.
Yeah, he's wild.
Yeah, when he was in America, I used to love him so much because his style has changed a lot now because of the tire and they're all chasing this fast car. But when he was in America, I used to love watching him. But you know, we always used to say we were like hanging in there like second, third in the championship for like past 3 years, pretty much now, 2 years in a way. And we, you know, people used to ask me, being like, "Oh, why can't you beat him?" And I'm like, I just can't beat his program. You know, his program is impossible to beat. It's not. We're in a position where our program isn't good enough, and we don't have the right spare packages and all these kind of things. And I'm like, dude can just crash a car in the wall and jump in another car and have the exact same car, you know. So it's like him as a program was impossible to beat, and him as a driver was also incredibly difficult to beat. So when the two of those were together, it's like, you know, it's wild. And then to beat him last year was such a good feeling because we know that how hard my team had to work for that. And also to be in a position to be better than anybody else in Drift Masters because they're all incredible. Like we often say in Drift Masters events right now that there's like 10 guys can win the event. It's like, it's wild how good they are. So it's, you know, the level of driving overall is pretty cool. So there's lots of drivers. We have so many, even in Ireland, like Dwayne McKeever is an incredible driver.
Yeah.
Tomas Kiley, who used to drive he kind of stopped 2017, I think, probably used to drive a green S14 for Achilles actually. Dude was one of the best, like at that time was incredibly good. And he came back last year, no, 2 years ago. He came back, James built him a 180. Such a good driver. He's good enough to be at the top of his game in Drift Masters. Dylan Garvey, the list goes on, man. There's so many good drivers from where we're from. And I think that's why we're so lucky, is that like people always say to me like, oh, how did you get good? Or how could I not get good when my main competition in a pro championship when I was 13, 14, 15 was James Dean, Dwayne McKeever, my brother, and a bunch of other guys who were absolutely incredible. I had no other choice because, you know, it's like, I use like a prime example of this. It's like when you're racing karts and there's a world champion from your country and the world champion comes and drives the national level events, and you've got some parents that are giving out being like, oh, he has too much money, he shouldn't be driving, you know, at like the national events because he's a world champion. And I'm sitting there being like, are you crazy? Like, this is the only chance that you will get to see if your son is fast enough to be a world champion.
Yeah.
And the term of drifting we had was the very same. If I was good enough to beat James Dean, I knew I was good enough to win all over the world. So I think that's what's been cool about Irish drifting, is that we've always had one guy who was like, you know, like Jack, and then James probably when he came to America first and Europe, Jack and Dwayne carried it for a while, and you know, I was chasing them and trying to be better than them. And so I think as a country, we've done a good job as a level of driving, you know, through the years, basically.
Yeah, you're right. For 15 years, there's always been some top person with somebody chasing behind, and then that top person moves to do something else.
Been James, but we've been grateful to have James because he was good enough to win everywhere, and we knew that we had a chance to battle him. It might not have been that we've got a battle for a whole year, but you know, I think like when he was winning FD championships, he was doing like the one-off event at home, or even just before that, probably he was doing like Global Warfare events. And I remember my brother beat him in the final of Global Warfare, and that was a huge achievement because it's not like a huge achievement because we're going to be like, oh, James, we beat you. It's like it's nothing like that. But for
Just
Jack,
to
it's to know that you're on that level of a driver is wild, because you can sit at home, and I can sit at home right now and watch loads of FD, and I'll double question 50 times, am I good enough? You don't know, because you're always like doubting yourself. That's just the way I am. Is that like you're kind of like, I don't know if I'm good enough, but then if you have something what actually is a reason to know that you're good enough, well then you know that you don't have to worry, basically.
It's interesting because it could be very easy to look at like James Dean like as a shadow, like just like living in the shadow, or like big shoes to fill. Like, I mean, whatever term you want to put in there, but it seems like that's not how you in particular, but most of Ireland perceived it. Yeah, for sure. As well, it's like what's crazy is that when I was younger, when I used to battle James, I used to always have this thing when I seen people battle James, my brother included, used to drive me crazy, is that the James Dean presence had so much over people. Was that like the battle was already won before he even took off. Because people used to just panic and try change because they thought, he is so much better, but they thought that they'd change their whole driving style to try beat him. And I seen my brother do it, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, why are you trying to do that? Or it's like falling asleep off the starting line or whatever, whereas probably when I came on the age of battling James, it was just like we were in two practice cars and I didn't really care. It was just like, let's just go for it and just have fun, and I think that's probably helped me because I just kind of look at all my battles like that, being like, the guy's a shadow. I don't really care who he is. Don't really know about anything. All I care about right now is the leader and what he's going to do in front of me. And that's kind of the way I've always kind of looked at drivers, is that when it's me next to them, I just kind of forget about who they are. Yeah, for sure. When I'm out of the car and I'm watching them drive, I respect them massively. But I think when you put that helmet on, you have to try find something just to flick a switch, and it's a blank canvas, basically. I think that's what made that big win of yours, like on your birthday over him, so impressive. Is like, not only did you beat him, but you beat him at his own game, which was like the proximity in his chases. Like at that point in time, especially with that track and that layout, his transitions were like second to none. And that's how you beat him. Yeah. That was probably always what I worked on, was chasing. Is like, because I love chasing so much, whether it's in a practice car. If I'm in a practice car, honestly, like my team give out to me so much because they're like, you're going to break everything, because I would do like 100 laps in a row because I just generally love chasing. Like, it's the best thing ever. It's probably actually my biggest worry about FD is that I'm in a left-hand drive car, and I'm a little bit nervous that when I'm trying to find the last percent, if somebody really pushes me and I have to try dig deep to try find that last edge, that it could possibly affect me. I'm not sure. When the last time I drove left-hand drive was in Rome's car when I was following Odie. I felt quite good in it, and I could do good transitions and all that kind of stuff, but it was quite relaxed. Whereas I think if somebody really pushes me and I have to like find a solution to beat them, it could possibly affect me. But I remember being that age, of like 15, 16, and I just remember like even younger, like 13, 14, 15, 16, I was like watching videos being like, oh, I'm going to be better at chasing than that guy. I just used to love the idea of just door and door, because I used to generally love the style of left foot braking, because left foot braking was actually a little bit unique back in Europe then, because not many people knew how to do it properly and not many people could use it for a big advantage. And I think I was probably like 13, 14 from the simulator, just trying random stuff, what was working, and kind of different style of trying to stay as close as possible, basically. So I think probably, chase game was always something what I prioritize. And, lead runs are lead runs. You just got to do them as safe as possible and be perfect everywhere. And then the chase run is where a battle is won, basically, in my opinion. I'm really excited to see your in-car footage. I'm hoping you do like a footwell camera for some runs, because I'm interested to see and compare yours versus some of the other drivers, especially around Long Beach, just to understand how you're using left foot. I always was a fan of footwork. It's like, because it wasn't even that I thought it would make the car better, but like from a kid watching, it was like if somebody had good footwork, I'd be like, oh, that looks sick. Yeah.
so you want to do it, and then it worked out that it was better in the car. But, I think that's the cool thing is that everybody has different styles. Everybody makes it work in their own way. And I've always been somebody who has always been a good chase driver. I've always been a fan of, like, Odie is a prime example. Like, I remember there's sometimes, I don't think I can think of anything recent, but like 2017, 18, when James came, I feel like Odie was kind of the only person who really kind of stepped. It might not have looked like that by the end of it.
Yeah.
But he was probably one of the only drivers in the situation where was like, he's like pushing, like he's chasing on the bank tracks, used to be incredible.
Yeah.
And I think he probably, in my opinion, done the best job of trying to find a way to beat him.
Yeah, him and Castro of that era was the other one.
Yeah, Castro was flicking switches there where you're like, what the heck? Yeah.
Still, I don't want to take anything away from still an incredible driver, but like he definitely had a huge peak at that point, especially driving against James. And I think it elevated so many people. Yeah. But I'm interested. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what's cool as well, is that when James was here, it was cool to see that, people put in the work, and you watch some interviews and they realized that, said, this dude is beating us and we got to find a way to beat him. And it's cool to see that,
Well, maybe the Shanahan era is the next one.
I don't know. Let's see.
I know.
I will give it my all, but that's all I can offer right now. But I'm just grateful that I'm got to be here with all the companies working with me, basically.
Yeah. I'm glad you made it. I know it was pretty dicey there for a bit. I know it was like literally an 11th hour phone call to make it all work. So
yeah, it was pretty good. It was wild. It was super wild.
I got a phone call on the Sunday night from Ryan Sage that's like, hey, because we had basically the draw planned to show the bracket.
I called him and he was like, I knew you were going to do this. And I was like, dude, please. I was like, I have a chance right now. And the crazy thing is that I had a chance to do it, but I needed some time to figure stuff out because I had to speak to Red Bull and I had to speak to all the companies. And but the thing is that I literally only had a window of like 2 hours to do it. So I had to make the decision without talking to anybody, like not even my parents, nobody, just be like, okay, let's roll with it. And I rang Ryan and I was like, hey, you're going to hate me, but is there any way you can let me in? And he's like, well, you are on the approved list. I just got to do a shitload of work to make it happen. And I'm like, please. And he's like,
it's just paperwork. Yeah. I was, it was like Saturday night or Sunday night. I can't remember, but I was like at dinner with friends and like, normally I wouldn't like pick up my phone. I saw it was Ryan. I was like, okay, this is going to be big. And he like called me and everybody I was at dinner with was our big drifting fans. And they're like, look at me like, who is that? I was like, oh, it was Ryan Sage. They're like, why is your face like that? I'm like, I can't talk about it, but shit's about to get crazy. And they're like, what the hell, man? I'm like, I can't say anything. I had to like hold on to that for so long.
Honestly, as well, was like, when I went on the approved list, it was like, so when I went on the approved list, I had no idea if I was going to be going to Formula Drift. But Ryan told me, hey, if you want to come, you got to be on this list. So I said, okay, cool. And Ryan sent me, Ryan sent me a message being like, about something that your name is going to be on the approved list. But I didn't realize it went to the public.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, whatever. I just didn't even, I remember I woke up, I was like half asleep and I was like, yeah, dude, whatever you need to do, just do it. So then I wake up the following day or something like that, and my phone is gone crazy. And I'm like, what is going on here? So I looked and I'm like, oh, Formula Drift tagged you in a post. And I'm like, what's this about? So then I open and it's the approved driver list and like every single comment is like tagging me.
Yeah.
And I had like 580 story mentions and the post was only like up like 16 minutes or something. And I'm like, wow. And I'm kind of thinking, at that time, I didn't really have a solution to put a program together. And I'm like, this could be the best thing what could ever happen because there's so much hype going on.
Yeah.
And that's what I said to Ryan, actually. I was like, yeah, it probably worked out in my favor. Because I messaged Ryan being like, hey, dude, I didn't realize that this is what you meant. And I was like, but it's cool. I was like, I'm enjoying the hype. And it's cool to see that, you know, a lot of people are cross-padding with drifting worldwide and knowing what's going on in Europe and in America. You know, and it's the same in Europe. You know, we're all fans of what's going on here. And it's cool to see that the hype is, and a new driver always makes it exciting. It's the same in Drift Masters. When you have a new driver, you're like, oh, it's cool, you know. And I think the possibility of me coming here was probably possible for some time. And I remember I went to Arendelle and every driver was like, you're going to come. And I'm like, I have no idea.
It was like the first thing I said to you. I was like, hi, I'm Jacob. So you're coming over? Like that was that was the combo.
But it's cool to see that, and it's cool. I've got some cool messages from drivers as well, which is sick. You know that they're all happy that I'm here. And I think that's probably like the coolest thing for me is that I honestly just want to enjoy it and have a good time with everybody. And I'm not here to upset anybody. I'm not here to be a dick. Basically, I'm just here to learn off these guys. And for sure, I want to beat them all. But that's life, and that's what my job basically is. But I'm not sure when that will happen, but hopefully it will happen at some stage.
Sick. Are you allowed to? So this is. I think we're in the clear here. So we're going to post this on Wednesday. Are you able to talk about when more info is coming out? Because I know people have listened all this way to just be like, what's going on? I know. Dude,
I apologize. I apologize. I'm really, really sorry.
No, this is my fault. I'm the one we could have done this later, but I'm like, no, I want to get this done, even if we can't talk about all the details. But
I honestly can't really. I could say, but I don't want to because I just think it's exciting to see. All I'll say is that it will be a sick looking car. It will have Red Bull branding on it, which is amazing. And I'm super pumped that that's going to be the case. And as well, it's going to be something what's going to surprise you guys a little bit. I think it's like some people have guessed it, I think for sure. But it's definitely not like what people are thinking. What do you think? Do you think people are thinking it?
I think what I don't even want to say it because like if I say it, people are going to read deep into it. But some people have guessed, but the majority definitely haven't.
Yeah, for sure.
It'll be a shock for a lot of people.
And as well, trust me when I say it will be sick. It'll be really, really cool that the team aspect, what we're about to do with another person is proper cool. And I think the personalities we both have will work very cool together. And I think it could grow into something very unique and it'll be quite exciting for you guys to watch.
I'm excited, man. I'm really pumped. And for everybody listening and watching at home, if you're not following Conor already, just do it. The announcement will come out in a period of time. I even want to say when.
I'm hoping when is this going to come out? On Wednesday?
Wednesday, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to drop the car Saturday, depending. The car is still in wrap right now, so I hope that the guys are doing a good job.
Sick.
But no, I'm pumped to be here. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to meeting everybody, and I can't thank everybody who's created the hype already and had the support, and Formula Drift for giving me the opportunity to come out here and let me rip at all the cool dudes in America. So it's quite nice to have the opportunity to be here, throw down the streets of Long Beach, and as you said, I don't know. Who knows when the Shanahan's era is here? Let's see how soon it starts. But I'm ready to get some doors and put on a show.
Sick. Oh, I couldn't wrap it up any better than that, man. Thank you so much for finally making all this work and giving into my peer pressure.
I appreciate it, too. No, honestly, I wanted to do it also. I'm a fan of watching you and your podcast as well. I've been watching a couple of them while I'm away and stuff. So good job.
I appreciate that. No, thanks, man. It's cool. I'm stoked to hang out a bit and we'll have to get you up to Canada at some point. Maybe I'll bring some Canadian whiskey down. And
sounds good.
Not that you'll have to bring it back to Ireland because you can't drink it in the States. So it'll be a fun
I'm an athlete.
process.
I don't drink alcohol. So
right, of course. No. This is the what's that meme? It's like this
don't
is
worry.
the prime athlete body.
I'm a drift athlete, so it's all good.
Sick. Cool. Well, for everybody listening and watching at home, please make sure check out Conor's stuff. We'll have links down in the description. Keep an eye and an ear out for the announcement. Hopefully this Saturday. And dude, I'm gonna see you in a couple days. I'll be flying in Monday, so hopefully you'll be.
I'll be around
at the
from
track
Monday on. Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah.
Awesome. I look forward to seeing you, dude, and thank you for your time.